Steve Marshall,
Hello.
welcome. How are you, mate?
I never know how to do the opening of one of these podcasts. I wish we would just start 5 minutes in from now. Well, one, I couldn't find the place. Okay, that's number one. Number two, you couldn't direct me to the place. Number three, when I get here, I walk in, it's a bookstore, and I go, do you know where they do a podcast here? And the young lady points. It's literally right in front of where I am.
Yeah.
Then I ask for the bathroom, and I can't find that. That's hidden. And it has a huge, by the way, it has a huge sign, bathroom on it. So
It's been a morning.
I just want to say, as aware as I think I am, and I think I am very aware about certain things, I'm also willing to admit that I'm very oblivious. And I think that, to me, is a big part of my humor. Is how could someone who's educated, I have a degree in accounting, I was the dean of a vocational business school, I taught business law based on the Uniform Commercial Code. I have tons of people calling me for advice all the time. And yet, I'm so oblivious. And I think that obliviousness is a big part of my, I hope, charm, that I'm not a know-it-all. And yeah, go ahead.
No, I think so. I mean, you know what? What I first noticed about you was when I saw you perform at Broadway. You do this thing where you just going around the audience talking, like you go off stage, you're talking to everyone. I mean, you clearly, in your act, I don't know what you're like in your personal life, in your act, you just have created this thing that is so unique to anything I've ever seen before. I mean, you're a beast. You've got this, it's like you've got this I don't give a fuck attitude, but it's so funny and so endearing. And I was wondering when I first saw you, I was like, how long must it taken for you to find your voice like that?
Well, for everyone who's watching and listening, first of all, in the last 6 years, I made a decision not to go on stage and not to use a microphone. I'm not even thrilled about using one now. I'm really not. And that's what we're talking about for anybody who's listening. If you come see me, and that's what you saw, I'm in the middle of the room for most of the time. I don't go on stage and I don't use a microphone. And I'm sort of, again, helpless in a way because I have no protective barriers. You know what I mean? Like, people can not only heckle you or tell you you suck, but, they can physically, you know what I mean? What I try to do is remove any affectations. This is just my philosophy. I try to remove any affectations I have. So the microphone is an affectation because even this microphone has an equalizer and it has bass. This is not exactly how I sound. You know what I mean? And by not going on stage, I'm not creating that I'm above them and they're below me. I've seen recently, heard comedians talk about power. You're giving up your power. And that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm giving up my power. I'm surrendering my power. And almost like somebody, if you know anything about Brazilian jiu-jitsu, where they fight on their back, there is no position of weakness. And by giving up my power, I think that's where my humor came from, getting picked on as a kid, getting bullied as a kid, having parents that paid absolutely no attention to me. So I don't know if I answered exactly what
definitely.
And how did it happen? I was running late. I'm always running late. I was running late for an audition for a condo gig for like mostly Jewish people in Florida, in South Florida.
Yeah.
And I came in the back room and they were like, hurry up, hurry up. So I just grabbed a wireless mic from the back of the room. Don't ask me why they had a sound booth there. And I just went through the audience with it. And everybody loved it. I had no idea what I was going to say. And eventually I made it up on the stage. And then I had a hypothesis. And I've talked to a lot of comedians. A lot of comedians came to me for coaching. I don't even want to go into that right now. But I think an entertainer, a writer, a singer has to have a hypothesis, a philosophy. And I said, what if I see how many minutes I can stay in the audience without going on stage? So I tried doing it 5 minutes, Then I went on stage. I tried doing 7 minutes in the crowd. Then I went on stage. And then one night I had the hypothesis. I said, what if I just stay in the crowd the whole night? What will happen? And this excited me. I'm very attracted to danger or things that are risky. Because to me, that's what humor is. It's, my whole thing is don't behave. Like, if it's not risky, it's not funny to me very often. So then eventually I stayed in the audience the whole time. And then I said, wait a second, let me see if I don't use, how long can I go without a microphone? And all these things allowed me to be more natural. And when I'm more natural, I can be more myself. And then I could be, my ultimate goal was to just be like I was in my Aunt Marilyn's house. She would take me weekends when I was a kid. My house was just not a fun place. So she felt bad for me, and my Uncle Abe and my Aunt Marilyn would take me weekends, and they would just let me be funny. And I didn't have a microphone, I didn't have a stage, and I didn't have material. And I just was a very desperate for love. And I think that's a lot of what you're seeing. I'm still desperate to be liked and to be loved. Does that answer that? Because I hope that wasn't too long.
No, I love it.
I'm very self-conscious also, believe it or not.
So am I, don't worry. That's what this is about. This is about, I want to hear you talk. I'm here to hear your story. So please just don't feel self-conscious about anything. Yeah.
But I think that self-consciousness and that obliviousness, that's kind of like I see a lot of humor now, and I see a lot of the comedians strike me now as being the Goliath, and they make the audience the David. Like, crowd work is good, but it's like some of it's malicious. And believe me, somebody said, I'm not doing crowd work. I'm doing my written material just in the center of the room, and I'm also ad-libbing like crazy, but I'm not spending my time saying, oh, you with the baseball hat, oh, the black guy, oh, the guy with the lesbian. You know what I mean? I'm not doing these, which have become paradigms. I'm looking at people and using them as human Rorschach tests. Now, we remember ink blots, like the psychologist would hold up an ink blot, and every ink blot was, oh, that's me peeing on my mother. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then they show you another one. They go, oh, that's me peeing on my father. It's never, oh, that's me getting a PhD at MIT. So I use them to spark my memory and my subconscious. And I really wanted to talk about the subconscious today because I remember reading something about Robin Williams, and who had gone to Juilliard, this great acting school. And he was talking about when he was acting in a movie, but probably also when he was doing comedy, being on your nerve impulses. So I'm going to define that as being instinctual and trying to connect with your subconscious. So what I'm always trying to do with myself is fuck with my conscious mind, get rid of my conscious mind. Even though I have a notebook, everybody can see, I know there's a camera. I'm not going to pretend like there's not a camera here, wherever it is. Where's camera one? But I spend a ton of time writing, and I have a ton of material and a ton of ideas. And then what I try and do is get rid of it. Get fucking rid of it and just get in the ring and just start sparring. I do a lot of sparring. Just get in there, because when you're in the ring, you can train. Everybody knows jab. Everybody knows cross. Everybody knows, But when you get in the ring, there's another person also trying to take you out. And now it becomes a conversation with your fists. And there's a great comedian, and my friend Brian Holtzman. And you all may know Brian Holtzman. I'd rather plug other people. You could see his YouTube special, #CancelBrian. Rogan loves Brian Holtzman. And he always says to me, Steve, it's got to be a conversation. And the only way for it to be a conversation is to get out of your conscious mind, the mind that's talking to you, the mind that, we all have it. There's a little voice. And by the way, another thing about doing comedy, because I think also this podcast, I want to make sure to talk to the people that are listening. I think a lot of young comedians or people that want to be comedians listen to this.
Yeah, a lot of people on the open mic scene, like on their way up.
Yeah. And guess what? I've been doing it over 27 years, and I feel like I'm on the open mic scene on my way up. I did a guest spot at a comedy class in Los Angeles. Hi, Sunda Kronquist. And I was talking to everybody and being funny, whatever. It was an open mic. And I said to everybody, I still have a lot of anxiety. And somebody said to me, you're a headliner and you've been doing it over 27 years. You still have anxiety. And it was so funny. They went, because people feel so comfortable talking, even though it's kind of a show. I don't like to call it a show anymore, but it's advertised as a show.
Yeah.
I mean, anything I do is advertised as a show, but I try and make it not a show. And they go to me, do you mean after 27 years, it doesn't get any better? And I said, yeah, it's not going to get any better. All right, I don't know. In other words, this is what we signed up for. If you're going to box, you're going to get hit. Like I'm a kung fu person and I've sparred a lot. And my coach said to me, if you think, because I saw the Karate Kid last night, by the way, which is really kung fu. And, he told me, he said, if you think you're going to get in the ring and spar and you're not going to get hit and you're going to do all these fancy kung fu moves. He said, the first time I went to a boxing gym, he said, I got the shit beaten out of me. I thought just doing the kung fu moves and doing the form, or for those of you that do karate, those of you that do the kata, if you don't practice with a real person, because that's the same, that's analogous to the audience. The audience is your sparring partner. I don't like to say that word, but they're your partner. And you're communicating to someone. You're not just, in my opinion, you're not just writing jokes and then going, here's a clever joke. Here's a well-written joke. You're really with someone. And when you're sparring or you're wrestling, it's the best example. I would advise all people who want to be comedians or actors to take some sort of wrestling class, because there's a give and take in wrestling. And I used to call it this, and I used to, when I coached people, I used to tell people, think of it like there's a rope between the two of us. And when you tell your joke, you're kind of pulling them towards you. And then when the punchline comes, their laughter is pulling you towards them. And then you feel that like a wave if you're a surfer. And you feel that, okay, I'm coming in, and now you're trying to catch the next wave. And as you catch it, you pull them. And then as they start laughing and laughing and laughing, they're pulling you. And then, so you don't just automatically go to the next joke. One night it might take you might do that same joke on dating, and it might take 3 seconds that they're holding you. And now you pull back slowly to go to the next one. And then the next night it might be, your rhythm is da, 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 da. I was also a fencer in college. I fenced foil and saber, and it's the same fencing is right. Da, 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 da. To think about the fact that you're not in a phone booth, God, how old am I? You're not in a cave by yourself. Even, I hope you feel, and I hope I'm not talking too much on a podcast, and I'm self-conscious I'm talking too much, but I'm looking at you. And I'm taking pauses. And I'm checking in, are you understanding what I'm saying? You just can't go out there and throw punches like a maniac. You're going to get knocked out. You have to really look. How's your opponent moving? That I use jokes like a jab. I throw them, even though the camera might be here or there or wherever this fakakta camera is. I'm talking to you. When I throw the jab, I want to see how you move. And then this is the setup. This is the punchline. And based on how you move, I know where the punchline is going to be. So really taking the time to make eye contact. Really taking the time to pause. And really just being, I hope I'm not talking. I know You're keep
great.
Saying this.
You're great.
I know.
You please. You're fine.
But I've thought a lot about all these things, and I thought a lot about this. Another thing is I prepare a lot.
Yeah.
And I knew you said that a lot of young comedians or people wanting to do these things would be listening. So I said, well, everybody, I remember, I think every show, and I've done over 10,000. I did so many open mics, so many things for no money. If you're doing open mics, work on what you want to work on. Don't worry about the response. The people watching you are probably other comedians, and what are they doing at an open mic? It's not they don't want to be nice to you, but they're probably sitting there with their set list in their mind, thinking about what they want to say.
Yeah, you're right, because at an open mic, if you judge your set on an open mic, if you have a bad set on an open mic, like it's not really fair to yourself, is it?
No.
You really can't judge yourself until you're in front of a live audience. I mean, although if you do get a great laugh at an open mic, it feels good, of course. But if you're not getting the hits you want, like last night, for example, we went to an open mic last night and no one got any laughs. Comic after comic after comic after comic. And this happened again the night before. Hardly anyone. And I was like, people are just not paying attention. And they just probably don't want to be there. You know, there's a lot of... And I walked away. I felt a little bad for a second last night. And I was like, hang on, it doesn't even matter. No one's paying attention. I can't judge myself for that. So, yeah, you're right. The best thing you can do is just go there and prepare.
You have to... I'm sorry, but I'm going to quote Vince Lombardi, the great American football coach of the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah.
It's about execution. When you go to the open mic, my suggestion, you have your set list, execute it. And the same thing in football where there's a defense, they're trying to stop your play. You've got a set list. Don't let anyone stop it. Execute it. Another thing is, you can tell if a joke is working or good by how it feels. So you want to develop this thing. I talked about the subconscious, and I think the subconscious is also more connected to feelings than this. If you were to go to a driving range and hit a golf ball, not play golf, but you could come away and you would come to me. I'd say, how was it at the driving range today? And you would go, it was good. How do you know? And you would say, my swing felt good. My swing felt good. I was relaxed, my swing felt good, and I could just feel the way I turned my hips. Eventually, that's going to be the same thing with what's called your delivery. I think we should all focus more on our delivery. It's not the joke, it's how it's being delivered. And you can come away from an open mic and you can feel that the flow from setup to punch, is this making sense?
Yeah, of
the
course.
flow. After a while, you can feel the flow. If you watch Dave Attell, you can tell a Dave Attell joke, not by the content, but by the rhythm, right? Bound and gagged in the backseat of a car, right? You know what I mean? You can tell by his delivery. You know, Mark Norman, I don't think I can do Mark Norman, but, you know, you can tell by his delivery. You know, you could tell by his delivery.
Yeah.
And
I was talking to Danny, the owner of St. Mark's Comedy Club, the other day. And he was saying very similar things. He said it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And I guess that's...
And how you say it comes from who you are. And that's more, to me, the persona. Once you get... Yeah, you go.
Sorry, you go.
No, you go.
Do you think, just on persona, you know, everyone says persona takes 7-8 years to build your persona. Do you agree with that? Or do you think it's... You know, because I guess the theme of this podcast and what I'm sort of hoping to achieve is like for comics out there and myself, like the idea is to get to a point where you found your voice and you found who you are on stage. And like, I know I'm years away from that.
Well, let's correct that right now. I made a big mistake.
Okay.
Because I'm an academic, I read everything I could on comedy, big mistake. And I read that it's going to take 10 or 11 years.
Right.
And then I started believing these things that I read. Eddie Murphy didn't read these things. He started at 14 or 15. So by the time he was 20, he was a star. So we all have to stop looking at paradigms that don't fit who we are, because what you believe is what you're going to be. If you think it's going to take 7 years to find your voice, it's going to take 7 years. It might take 5 minutes. My whole philosophy is don't behave. Anybody looks up comedy, don't behave. The first rule of my philosophy is everything is the opposite of what you've been told. All right? And also, most people, I started coaching in 1994. Don Jamieson, you may know Don Jamieson. You know Jim Florentine. You know Don Jamieson and Jim Florentine.
I don't know a lot of American
The podcast
comics.
people will know them, okay? So they're both headliners. They're on a TV show, That Metal Show. Don Jamieson came to me and gave me $400 to coach him because I was always giving people little tips on the sidelines. And I know I believe I'm the third person in America to use the term where your voice comes from. these comedy coaches, they all got that from me. They all got that from my students. They don't know where your voice comes from. I know where it originally comes from, and I'm not going to give credit to it right now. So I'm probably the third person to use that terminology, and I was using it in 1994. You have your voice right now. You want to know your voice? Those of you that are watching, it's right where you are now. This expression you're using right now is your voice. It's just a matter, I've directed a few movies and plays. All I do is look at you and then go, or when I was coaching, is go, that's it. You're being honest. That's it. If you would go on stage and do a punchline and then turn to the crowd and just do what you're doing now and just be like, where's the camera in this?
Just the
Where
in the ring.
I'm a film director, but I can't find the camera. I can't find the podcast. I can't find the club. I can't find the bathroom. But I'm a film director. I'm so oblivious. Where's the camera? Where's the camera? I'm a great movie director. Hi, everyone out there in podcast land. But what you're doing, and this is me right now. So all you do, and that's you right now, that smile is, all you have to do is pay attention to yourself and repeat it and take a risk to do it. When you're learning Kung Fu or Jiu-Jitsu and let's say, I'm trying to do something, I'm not advocating violence by anything, but let's say if you're being taught jab, cross, when you go in the ring to spar, you have to practice jab, cross. And I see so many people that don't do what their boxing teachers are showing them. Then when it's time to spar, they don't do it. I had so many comedians. It was so frustrating. I always work on the opening. I think the opening is the most important part of what you're doing because it creates your rhythm. It creates your tempo. And we would work on the tempo and work on the tempo, and then they go up and they don't do it. And if it doesn't work the first time, I've got a surprise for you. If I gave you a basketball and you never played, now the worst thing that you told me where the camera is. Hi, everyone. Just me being natural. Cheerio. I don't know. He's Australian, British. They don't fucking tell you anything who they are. Guy calls you up with an accent and doesn't explain it.
Australian.
You're Australian. Okay. Have you ever had sex marsupial style?
No.
Oh, yeah, you shoot.
What is that?
Oh, you shoot a load in the girl's purse. And then she hops away and you never see her again. Let's just have fun.
It's the best
here.
kind of woman.
No. No, I believe in love. I believe in relations. Anyway, take a risk to do something. I just kind of had a little rule of thumb that I would try a joke 3 to 5 times before I got rid of it. Now I'm going to change that. If you've been doing it a while, if you like it, do it. There was a joke. I don't know if I even want to do it. I have a joke about my parents were Jewish and they were so cheap. They used to withhold taxes from my allowance. And the joke never worked. So I had it in my notebook. This is an actual notebook. This is for this year. This is like, or not, maybe the last 11 months. This is my 93rd notebook of the last 11 months. And I write on it the title of important shows. And on the inside flap, I write down key bits and things I want to work on. So this allowance joke wasn't working. But when I went to the next notebook, I would take a few jokes. I would take a few jokes from the old notebook and I put them in the new notebook to remember them. And I kept doing the allowance joke. And the way I used to do it was my parents were cheap. They used to withhold taxes from my allowance. And then one day, because my subconscious mind took over, and I was really not just trying to be funny, but really engaged with people, I don't know what came out. I might have been talking about being Jewish. And I said, my parents were so Jewish, they withheld taxes from my allowance. And that was the missing theme. It wasn't my parents were cheap, they were Jewish. But also maybe because that was closer to my persona, because I was talking about being raised Jewish. So it's not being afraid to say stand-up to me means stand-up comedy, means standing up for what you believe in. And if I use some comedians that are older, I'm sorry, but I'm going to use them. But Pee Wee Herman, there's a great, supposedly, documentary out of him now. He made a decision to be a character, Pee Wee. And he made a decision to do all those little weird, I know I am, but what are you? And the fact that I can imitate him means that he has a persona. If somebody can imitate your delivery or your don't forget your mannerisms. That's why we're videotaping ourselves. By the way, many years ago at Dangerfields, I mean like 17, 25, I started videotaping. And all Tony, the owner, used to say, the comedians are making fun of you. Now everyone's videotaping. I don't have the time to watch all my sets because they're an hour long, but try and take time to watch a few minutes from every show.
Okay.
And a big tip I've always, and again, you don't have, I always tell people, don't take advice from anyone, especially me. The only advice I would give is never doubt yourself. But what I do, and I still do it after all these years, if there's a few bits that are new or if there's an older bit that worked better, I write it out word for word with the pauses. This is so important. Write the pauses. And if there's a mannerism, like sometimes I learned that sometimes not looking directly at them on the punchline, sometimes for me, this is you'll see a lot of times I look, even with you, now I'm doing there, now I'm doing there. Sometimes I might find if I went like this on the punchline, it gets a laugh. So I would write down in my notebook, slap head, slap left forehead, and I'm that specific, slap left forehead with left palm. So it's not this, because I hope I'm not talking too quickly, even in directing movies, the hardest thing in directing movies is to get the actors to do what they did the exact same way. Sometimes we want you to be different, but there's a lot of cuts and there's a lot of takes. And I have to match them in the editing room. So if you see what you're doing right now? I would say, can you say that line again and do that where you took the thing and whatever? I like that, right? And that might be what you did when we're futzing around. I go, no, let's shoot that again, but this time do that. That's your voice. What I can't do with this because I'll spill it. I'm very messy. But that's your voice. The way you went like this, that's your voice.
I hear.
Now you go back to the next scene and you do the same line with this. But now I would say, okay, let's try it again. We take it again, and now I go cut, and they go, what? You just switched the coffee cup to the right hand. And they go, oh, I did. I kind of sound like I'm contradicting myself, but you have to be aware. And if you're funny and your punchline has this, you need that.
Yeah.
If your punchline has a pause, if you say something, so I went in the store, you need the pause. The next night you go out and do it. So I went in the store. Oh, it didn't get a laugh because you didn't take a pause. So this is what you're looking at on the video, in my opinion, or when we're filming a movie or doing a play.
Yeah.
We're looking at your behavior.
It's so hard to watch yourself on video.
It's the worst.
It's so cringeworthy. I
It's
think
the worst.
everyone goes through it.
That's a real person walking by. There's a storefront here.
Let me ask you, Steve. Do you think, obviously there's different ways to write, okay? Some people write on stage. Some people write notebook. But do you think that there's merit in going up on stage, especially when you're doing open mics, and just having nothing, or having just a topic that you've thought
100%.
about and just go and
100%.
just talk about it, even if
100%.
you don't get a single laugh? Like, for example, I had a doctor's appointment yesterday and I got some test results back that are worrying me, but I know I can make a few jokes about it, right? So I'm just thinking, do I go on stage today and just talk about it? Do I just get it off? But I'm nervous or worried because of whatever. But I'm like, the fact that I'm nervous or worried about being judged or whatever or not being funny is the reason why I should do it. And do you think, is that a good practice for people to do regularly while
Yeah, I think both are good because as one is trying to figure out what they're going to be doing, I'm talking about people doing it, I don't want to give a time frame, but people just starting out, whatever. You want to give yourself a chance to discover yourself. So you want to do both. You want to learn the discipline of doing your act, because if you have to do the Tonight Show or Colbert or Kimmel or Netflix, but more of those shows where you have 5 or 6 minutes, they're probably going to want to go over everything you're saying. And they probably want you to do exactly what you showed them. So you want to develop the discipline of following your game plan, what you wrote in your notebook.
Yeah.
But at the same time, and I am a little contradictory, you also want to take time to go out there with nothing and see what happens. How do you sound when you have nothing?
Yeah, because it's two completely different muscles that you
But
tensing, you know?
eventually there's a synergy, and that's what happened to me.
Yeah.
All right, so look, everybody, I would go out one night. I have a degree in accounting. I had no acting lessons. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Maybe I still don't. Maybe that's good. I would go out and I would do material and kill. Not kill, do well.
Yeah.
Then I go at the next night with the same material, 0. Then I would go at the next night and I drop the material in ad lib and I would kill because I'm a killer when I ad lib. Then I go at the next night and I go, hey, I don't need an act. And I'd ad lib and I'd bomb. And this was going on for like 3 years. I couldn't decide, am I better? Because some comedians, be very careful what anybody says to you, including me. Some comedians would be like, you're so much funnier when you ad lib. So I was like, okay, I guess I'll ad lib. And then the club owner was like, what the fuck is he doing up there? Doesn't he have an act? Wasn't like it is now where everybody's doing crowd work. You had to have an act. And it took me a very long time to listen to the cadence when I ad-libbed and the cadence in my written material and realize, for me, I had to get the cadence in my written material to match the cadence in my ad-libbing. That might be the best thing I said tonight.
I like that.
Or today. It's always tonight. I'm a nightclub guy. By the way, everybody, if I'm talking too much, it's like 1:30. I mean, like I stay up till 6 or 7 a.m. every night. I don't even wake up till 3 p.m. No, I'm not kidding.
I don't. Yeah, I'm here.
You know what I mean? I stay up all night worrying. I do. Why do people? I hope, but I do. I never think I'm good enough. I never think I'm funny enough. I always think that there's something missing. Do you know what I mean? And that propels me.
That's seems to be a common thread for a lot of comedians, is self-deprecation. I have it. I stress out.
I think of what drove us to do this thing. What idiot. By the way, I'm exaggerating. May I quote the great Otto and George? There's a comedian, you should look him up, Otto Peterson. He was a ventriloquist, but he was a comedian. He was on David Letterman also. And the dummy's name was George, and the ventriloquist was Otto. And you would think it's the worst. And George would go, I exaggerate to clarify.
I like that.
And a lot of humor is exaggeration. But just like avant-garde art, or just like if you look at Jackson Pollock, even though you look at him throwing the paint on the canvas, and you go, what the fuck is that? That's a physical manifestation of maybe the way he feels internally. You know, so we all exaggerate. So what I'm saying is exaggeration based on truth is a good thing. Look, I think there's only 3 choices here. You either are yourself when you're doing comedy. I don't like to say on stage anymore. I don't like to say doing an act. You're either yourself when you're doing comedy. You're either doing a persona like Pee Wee Herman when you're doing comedy, right? Or you're being primarily a joke writer with an attitude, which might be an Anthony Jeselnik. Do you know what I mean? It's funny. Can I just say, I've known Bill Burr a long time. I mean, we used to do Dangerfields just every night, all right? And I'm watching Bill one night, and Tony, the co-owner, Rodney Dangerfields. There was a club Dangerfields in New York City for a long time.
It's now Rodney's.
It's now Rodney's, which is great.
Great club, yeah.
But and I was very lucky. That's another thing. You have to sort of find a club that you can make a home in.
Yeah.
It's very hard as a young comedian to bounce from club to club to club and find your, for lack of a better word, voice. You're going to have to find, I believe, a home. I was given a home at Dangerfields. What does that mean? It meant that even when it didn't go well, I got asked back. And I had the same thing at the New York Comedy Club from Al Martin on 48th and 1st, and the New York Comedy Club on 24th and 2nd, and the Broadway Comedy Club. I had that with Fran Capo at a place called the Comedy House. You have to find a place that believes in you and allows you to be bad. I don't know how I got on this tangent, but I think this is also something.
Yeah.
It's very hard bouncing from if that's the only way to do it, you do it. Because for a long time, I couldn't get in the city clubs, and neither could Rich Voss. And I think Rich Voss, who, by the way, I think is just one of the funniest people. He just, whether it's on stage or off stage, I want to come back to Bill Burr. That's what I was talking about. But Rich Voss, I think, was the first comedian. They used to call us road comics. And Rich Voss was the first road comic to really break the barrier of road comics being funny in New York City, where he came into the city and he was a road comic and he was just so funny. He kind of opened the door for those of us that weren't getting booked in the city to come back to the city. So we couldn't get stage time in the city, so we'd go to New Jersey, we'd go to Long Island, we'd go anywhere we could to develop, right? And then we came back. I think that's very important to hear. My friend John DiResta never did the city clubs. He did the Long Island clubs, and he got a sitcom, DiResta. He was in the movie 15 Minutes with Robert De Niro. So just find the stage time. If you can't find it, just find stage time. Just find stage time. And I always told people, your first 100 shows, don't even judge yourself. Imagine you're doing your third show and some comedian is coming up to you, let me tell you about that joke you did, and let me tell you about what you're wearing, and let me tell you about this and that and that. Give yourself 100 shows before you even judge yourself. Because I was saying before, if I gave you a basketball and you never played basketball, you're from Australia, how long do you play basketball?
A little.
If I gave you can you dribble?
Yeah.
Okay, you can. How long did it take you to learn to dribble?
I mean, I was pretty fucking good from the start.
No, you weren't. How long do you think it took you?
I don't know. A few days, I guess.
No
just
way.
to get the habit of it.
You're telling me
weeks, I don't know.
Here's the difference.
I mean,
go win a game.
Ages.
And that's the same thing as sparring. You can hit the bag, because as my coach said, the bag doesn't hit back. I'm talking about, and all your jokes are funny in your notebook until you go in front of a crowd.
Yeah.
It could take you 6 months to 3 years to learn to dribble a basketball. All right? So why would anyone know if they're good at comedy in 1 month? Why would people quit after 1 month? Give yourself a year, 2 years, 3 years. And let me give you another thing. He wasn't really my stepfather. He married my mother after I was 18, so he didn't have to financially care for me. And he once said to me, I must have been doing it 20 years, he said, and I was doing all right, but not doing great, apparently, to him. He was a very wealthy banker. And he goes, out of the blue, he just sits down, he goes, so have you ever thought when you're going to give up this thing? He didn't even know to say comedy, right? Have you thought when you're going to give up? And I remember looking at him going, and I wasn't making a lot of money, and I said to him, or getting accepted by a lot of clubs, and I said to him, I'm never going to give this up. This is who I am. This is what I do. This is what I am. This is what I do. And now backtracking to Bill Burr.
My mum asked me that the other day.
She didn't.
She said, how long will you do it for? Until you start, because she knows that obviously you make no money. I make nothing. I think I've been paid for 1 gig since I've been here. And she goes, well, how long are you going to do this for? When will you give it up? I'm like, I'm not going to give it up. Yeah, it's funny. It's funny that parents have that view that it's something that you can just give up once.
Because they think it's like a job. This isn't a job. I'm going to say something. I saw a comedian, and he was getting on TV a little and making a good living. And he's at Dangerfield's at the bar, and he's got a laptop out. This is 15 years ago. And I looked over, what are you doing? He says, I'm looking at my stock portfolio. I've got page after page of jokes, psychological things to boost my confidence. You know what I mean? Little slogans, you know what I mean? Believe in yourself. And he's looking at his fucking stock portfolio. This is not a job. This is not a career. To me, you're either an artist or you're not an artist. This is who I am. And when your mother said to you, how long you think you're going to keep doing this? Did it have a negative tonality to it, or was it just very casual?
It was casual. I think it wasn't. it wasn't negative, but it's kind of hard to not take it as a little negative. But
Yeah.
I mean, I know it comes from a place of love, like she's.
Oh, I'm not letting that go.
But
And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my podcast, Don't Behave with Steve Marshall. I want you to explain to me how that, and push back.
Okay.
Why was it from a place of love?
Because I think, this is my interpretation. I don't know, right?
Yeah, just talk to me. We're just talking. Let them listen.
Yeah, because I'm 35. I'm nearly 36 in a couple of weeks, and I think she's like, well, when are you going to give up the fun and actually have a serious have a serious profession? Because I think that's my parents' mindset is a real job is a real job. Comedy's not a real job. When are you going to get a real job?
And that's the point. It's not a job. Jackson Pollock painting, throwing paint at a can. It's not a job. Martin Scorsese directing a movie and writing is not a job. And that's what people that have jobs, they can't understand us sometimes. I've had this in relationships. It is so hard to get somebody to understand why. You know what somebody said recently? This is one of my best friends. The woman he's dating said to him, why would he keep doing this when he doesn't make a lot of money? Now, for those of you listening, I do make money, but I'm not making money, like what somebody my age would make if I had stayed with accounting, you know what I mean? And he said, why? They can't believe that somebody would do something, get ready, kiss the day goodbye, the sorrow and the sadness, what I did for love. But it is like a chorus line, what I did for love. I walked away from a 9-to-5. I had a great career. And I'm not saying your mom doesn't love you. No. But I do want to say this. My sister, if you think I'm overboard, and I'm pretty calm here today. Be calm, don't behave. It's my slow. My sister is 10 times bigger than me for no reason at all. We're at like a restaurant. I'm having New England clam chowder. I'm putting oysterettes in it. And I go, yeah, my sister goes, oh, mommy liked you much better than me. And I said, what are you talking about? I go, mommy liked you better than me, Mindy. And she goes, oh no, mommy liked you better than me until you turned down that accounting job with Price Waterhouse. Then mommy stopped loving you. And then we just went back to putting oyster. I'm not kidding. And then we just moved on like it was nothing. Like it was nothing. We just moved on to eating. And then my sister was like, how's your clam chowder? But that's absolutely true.
Even making the transition from professional life into this is challenging because I've been an electrician my whole life. I've worked on projects. Oh,
really?
Yeah, I got into the workforce when I was 17. As soon as I finished school, straight into the workforce and traveled around my country working, worked in London and coming here and sort of realizing that I've got to kind of balance some sort of working life with this. And then, I don't know, psychologically, you really have to go through a change. And I found that challenging. I found it really difficult sometimes because my mind and body are battling with two contradictions because I have a side of me that is like, hey, you got to have this job, you got to work. And I've been grown up to believe that. And I've believed that and felt that. And I still do. You have to provide, but there's a side of me that goes, no, I've got to kind of let that go, take a hit to do this art that I want to pursue and hope and believe and hold on that it will pay off. And making that transition psychologically kind of tormenting, if I'm honest. I go through some really pits highs and really low lows.
But what is the, I know what you're talking about, but I want to hear from you. What is the turmoil in going from the electrician, which is still you, but the psychology of being what is the turmoil? I don't want to put the words, what is the turmoil going from that to doing comedy?
The turmoil is having the balance in my life to be able to still give comedy everything, be able to have all the late nights that it involves, all the mornings that we come home at 1 o'clock in the morning, 5 days a week, or 2 o'clock in the morning, and then still be able to work and but be able to put that first. So I don't know, also I guess it's really like an act of faith. It's an act of, I have to have faith and believe that this pathway is the right one without any evidence that it is going to be. You know, I'm jumping onto this ship that I'm very well aware has patchwork all over it. Those patches can pop out anytime and that ship can sink in the middle of the ocean. And I've got no idea if it's when or if or how it's going to happen. And I have to just hold on and hope. And that is fucking frightening. Because at the start of this journey, which I am, you know, I've been taking comedy seriously for a year now. And at the start of this journey, we have no idea how we're going to develop. We don't. I know I'm getting better as each week and day goes on, but I don't know how I'm going to develop. I don't know if I'm going to be able to make money out of this professionally. And I'm really just throwing caution to the wind and going for it recklessly. It is kind of a reckless pursuit, but it does, especially knowing where I've come from, it does wane on me that I'm like, oh man, I could potentially be like 45 and broke, or 50 and broke, and have I pursued a dream, but cool, you got no money, you're a loser. I don't know, like it's just, you know, the negative mind play, the voice that goes through your head.
I hope I can help you a little with that. One, I think that's part of becoming a comedian, making the transfer psychologically from day job to being a comedian. It's also, I know I keep bringing it up, making the transfer from being a guy who went to school to get an accounting degree to stepping in the ring and fighting full contact. You have to change your mind. Let's get ready for this. I was a school teacher and a dean of a business school trying to be a comedian at night. Then I became a comedian, making a living, headliner. And now, Saturday, I'd finished my last show at Dangerfields at about 2:40 a.m. The next day I had a fight on Sunday, and I had to be there at 10 a.m. Now I had to change from comedian to kung fu sparrer. And that was really hard too. But I accepted that was who I am. So you're going to get hit when you go in the ring. It's going to be really, really hard to move from a day job to taking a risk to giving up your day job. So to make you feel better, and I do want to make you feel better with honesty, that's the path. You're on the real path because you really care. And it is painful. And it's no different than if we went in the gym and started sparring. I'm going to hit you. I'm going to try not to hurt you, but I'm going to hit you. And guess what? You're going to try and hit me. And even though you may not be as skilled as I am, you're going to fucking hit me because everybody gets hit. And that might be a good theme for today of the podcast. You want to be a comedian, you're going to get hit. You want to do kung fu or be a mixed martial artist or UFC, you're going to get hit. You want to get married, you're going to get hit with bills. You want to have a child, you're going to get hit with sickness. You want to be a human being? Well, I lost my father when I was 15. All right? So let's not sit around and cry about it. Let's face it, but nobody told me, and I did a one-man show called Nobody Told Me. Nobody told me how rough life was going to be. Let's fuck comedy.
It is fucking rough, man.
It is.
You know, like, you know, a high 1 minute and the next minute it's just
oh my God, I'm bound.
fuck, I want to just kill myself. It's just.
I'm so glad you said that.
So
fuck
fucking,
everything else we said. Even here at the podcast, I'm bouncing off the walls because I'm listening to what you said, what your mother said. That really triggered me. Then I'm listening. I can see you're honest enough to talk about like how it's depressing, then it's not depressing, it's good, and you know the turmoil, and I'm feeling it because I'm still under turmoil.
Yeah.
Do you think I think sometimes when you see big stars, I know this, and like I'm sure Steve Martin was sitting around a few years ago going, "Oh my God, nobody's called me for a movie." And then he got Murders in the Building or something like that with Martin Short. You know how happy? It never ends. Like that open mic class I did after they said after 27 years, you mean it doesn't get better? I don't think it does.
No.
You think Muhammad Ali was a great expert boxer and he was getting his brains knocked out towards the end of his career? You're always going to get fucking hit.
Yeah.
That's why I think people think that they can avoid getting hit by taking a 9 to 5. I'm not against 9 to 5 jobs.
No.
I'm just asking for a little empathy for you want to go to the movies, you want to listen to podcasts, You want to go to museums. Well, very few people do, but you should be wanting to go to museums. You want to read books. Somebody's got to write them. Somebody's got to paint them. Somebody's got to get hit and take the risk to walk away from. The whole thing is walking away from money.
Yeah.
The whole thing. I said, I don't care about money because money is not going to bring my father back.
Yeah.
Money is not going to bring my Aunt Marilyn back. And money just was shallow to me. I always say it. I left accounting, and I was really good at accounting. I know that sounds weird to say.
No, you're a Jew, I would imagine. It's in your blood, bro.
I love ethnic jokes. By the way, just so this doesn't get too serious. Now I'm worried we're too serious. I make love like an accountant. Fuck you, I do.
Okay.
I do. Whatever I do to this side of the body, I do to this side of the body. So it all has the balance. If I pull this nipple twice, I pull this nipple twice. So this is a good example. I could be very serious, but I can also be silly.
Yeah.
I had a day job, and I could also be doing comedy. This is who we really are. Real people are not funny 24 hours a day. Real people are not happy 24 hours a day. We're everything. Like we are here. But I think hopefully for the people listening, we're not scaring them away, but if you're having a tough time or if financially you know how difficult this is, I hope we're letting them know that that's part of being an artist.
Yeah, that's the path.
That's, you know what I mean? I wanted to say something quickly about Bill Burr. I went to see him in Glengarry. I went to see Glengarry Glen Ross, David Mamet's play. And afterwards, I was like, I want to say hello to Bill, and, you know, they do autographs after, but I don't want to look like corny, you know what I mean? But I said, all right, I'll say hello. And he's signing autographs, and he stops, and he looks up, and he goes, don't behave. Hey, Marshall, what's up? And I go, hey, Bill, you were great. He goes, and I'm trying to compliment him. He goes, he's signing autographs. That's great. And he goes, yeah, what's up? Have you spoken to Tony at all? Tony from Dave. I go, nah, I haven't spoken to him. How about Rodney's? There's something about the camaraderie of comedians that even though he was on Broadway, the second he saw me, I talked about Rorschach test, the second he saw me, he so enjoyed just talking about comedy and comedy clubs. And he was so down to earth. Yeah. And when I watched Bill in Glengarry Glen Ross, when he opens up in the show, he's in a booth like this. And this is Bill Burr. But if you watch every podcast he's on, that's his body language. That's his, what happened? I can't even put this.
Flip it
How am
around.
I going to be?
Flip it around. There you go.
I'm Jewish. Can I get a Christian to fix this for me? I do nothing. But if you watch Bill Burr, he's using the same body language in Glengarry Glen Ross that he's using when he does a podcast. Watch him when he does a podcast because, and I got it, he couldn't have been nicer to me. He couldn't have been, he had no facade. And I realized that Bill is so sharp and such a good, I don't want to say actor because that takes away from his honesty, but he's so aware that this is his body language. He's so aware what his attitude is. Do you know what I mean? It's not just telling jokes. And he's so aware of it. And that Bill, in my opinion, has a persona and an attitude. But it's so well done, we don't notice it. Because when I met him, he wasn't like, oh, you're still doing comedy? What are you doing? How much did you pay to get in here? You know what I mean? You know, what, you're not a big enough star to be in a show yourself? You know what I mean? He was so kind, so nice, so wonderful, so wonderful. And it made me realize he's so aware of what makes him funny. So maybe that's just what this is all about today, is all of us becoming aware of what makes us funny. And I think if you're not being serious, you may not find what makes you honestly funny.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, like, I was just writing jokes and writing jokes and writing jokes and writing jokes and writing jokes. I mean, I was asked to write jokes for the monologue, 1.5 years for the David Letterman show. I'm submitting jokes, writing jokes and writing jokes and writing jokes. I'm so busy writing jokes that now my persona is not comedian. Now my persona is joke writer. But when you're in front of people, your persona is not joke writer, most of us. It's Steve or Cam. You know what I mean? So what you do is what you are. And if I'm only writing jokes, then all I am is a clown. And if I'm not being serious, then how are people going to take the setup? Has to be to a degree serious. That's why emceeing is so important, because as an MC, you learn to be serious. You learn to say something serious about your fellow comedian. You learn to drop a joke and say, this next comedian coming to the stage, you might have seen on the David Letterman show. He has his own podcast. Right now, you know what I mean? Please welcome. You learn to be serious. Well, isn't quite often the setup serious? And the punchline is the misdirection. So if you...
I hear you.
Yeah, you know what I mean? You know, sometimes I'm saying this maybe in cryptic ways.
Yeah.
But I think that's so important to nurture all of you.
It really does feel like comedy is as much a journey within as it is a journey of giving to an external thing, you know, with that external thing being an audience. But it's also, it feels like a journey of discovery, because at it feels like in the short time that I've been doing it, there's almost like you go through something, you kind of then go up a little step, you know, and you go through something, you go up a little step. Then sometimes you go down a little step.
Oh, you definitely
go. And then you go down 3 steps.
Yeah.
But it just feels like it is a journey of self-discovery. You know, it's a journey of finding who you are.
I think that's
in a weird way, if that makes sense.
No, I think that's what attracts some of us to walking away from the 9-to-5 job, when you have to say yes sir, yes sir, yes ma'am, yes sir, yes ma'am. I can't tell anybody what I feel exactly, or I don't want to say how I think the project should be done, because I might, you know, maybe he's going to get mad. She's going to get mad. I work for a lot of women also. She's going to get mad because I don't agree with the project. So I think it's not just self-discovery. I think walking away from that to do anything in the arts is an opportunity to be yourself. Don't behave, my theme. Don't behave like anyone but yourself. Be yourself. Where I used to live for the weekend. There used to be a song. I know I'm a little older than there used to be a song. Weekend, everybody party down weekend. And I went to school in Buffalo, New York, even though I'm from Brooklyn, New York, Flatbush. Okay, all right, just to let you know, all public school, not a fancy kid. Went to SUNY Buffalo, State University, New York at Buffalo, got a degree in accounting. Turned down the job at Pricewaterhouse, took a job at Seneca Steel, working a blue-collar job doing the mathematical computations. I was the only Jew working there, 1050 Military Road. Hi, everybody in Buffalo. And they thought I was going to be the worst. They thought I was going to be a college uptight guy. And then when I went out in the plant and put on the hard hat, I made them laugh so much they loved me. They started taking me out drinking. And nobody drinks like the people in Buffalo. They drink 7 nights. I want to say nights, more than that, a week. Anybody who lives in a cold place loves to drink. Sunday we usually quit drinking around 7. It was an early night. And we'd work our asses off at Seneca Steel, a division of Gibraltar Steel, 1050 Military Road. And then we'd go out drinking at night. But before we went out on Friday, me and my friend Tim O'Mara, hey Tim, and everybody at Seneca Steel, we'd put on this song, Weekend, everybody party down. And we lived for the weekend. Monday through Friday, 40 plus hours a week. It's not that we couldn't be ourselves. We couldn't say whatever we wanted to say. We couldn't make a joke whenever we wanted to make a joke. And we waited to be free on the weekends. And I guess I saw comedy as a way to be free 7 days a week. I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't come with certain handcuffs like being broke. I've been broke twice. I'm not saying it doesn't come with certain handcuffs like being divorced. I'm divorced. I'm not saying it doesn't come with certain handcuffs like people hating me. And I'm talking about people hating me at shows. That's gotten a lot better.
Yeah, I think everyone experiences that. I mean,
but hate.
Yeah.
It's one thing to hear you're not funny, but people literally just wanting to make sure they knew how much they hated me.
Wow, that sucks.
Yeah.
That sucks because that's not what you're there for. That's the complete
that's
opposite
not my
of
tension.
what you're there for.
That's not my...
Well, no one goes on stage to... I don't believe no one goes on stage to make someone hate them. They may be trying to prove... a point that they realize is a little controversial.
Yeah.
But I don't think any comedian, if you're a comedian, you're going up there to get.
Most of the people I know, they're not doing that. But what I'm saying is that when you leave the Monday through Friday job world, as much as you want to be free, there's handcuffs that come with everything. Yeah. But I think there's so much. I think freedom is a big part.
Yeah.
Why I did it. I just, for myself personally, money was not. It just didn't. It didn't seem to. Even if I made millions of dollars, I don't want a boat. You know what I mean? I always think of Jackie Mason, who's a great comedian. You should listen to Jackie Mason. He passed away. He was like, a Jew with a boat? What business is a Jew having with a boat? You ever see every Jew that has a boat? The boat never leaves the dock. Come on, we're going to go see my boat. We'll go see the boat. Okay, we saw it. Now let's go get something to eat. I love ethnic humor because I believe that America is an ethnic country.
Oh, totally.
And America is a country that invites people like yourself from other countries. And I found that being an ethnic person myself, being raised Jewish, that I knew I was made fun of for being Jewish. I was attacked for being Jewish. And I found if I could make fun of myself first, and I learned something about people that are scary. They like to laugh.
Oh, yeah.
Like Shakespeare said that drama needs comedic relief. Let me tell you something. These murderers out these and these really violent people out there, they laugh the loudest because, after a week of extorting money and breaking fingers and breaking legs, they want to laugh. Yeah. Even that job is a job comes with, you think you're just going to go out there and beat people up? People don't just let you beat them up. They fight back. Or you got to get money. You got to collect people that owe you money. You're a bookie, okay? It's not. I could see bookies even come home. Hey, how was your day? Oh my God, this guy just wouldn't pay the money. He just wouldn't. What do you mean? Well, didn't you break? The wife says, didn't you break any? I did. I broke his pinky. He still wouldn't give me the money. I can't believe this fucking guy. Then I take his thumb, I take a hammer, I break that. So he gave you the money? No, he still wouldn't give me the money. Now I got to break his kneecap. He gives me $5. I broke a pinky, his thumb, and it gives me $5. What's wrong with this guy? So I guess no matter what, what do you want to do this weekend? I'm so uptight. And she says, let's go to a comedy club and laugh. It'll help you relax. So even and it's funny because we're in the neighborhood. We're in the low, and I'm very aware of where I am. I get that from Brooklyn. We're on the Lower East Side now. Great movie, Once Upon a Time in America. Do you remember that movie with Robert De Niro? And it's about the Jewish mobsters. And they were right in this neighborhood, Meyer Lansky and them. This is Orchard Street, the Lower East Side. This is where they all grew up. And Bugsy Siegel, who started Vegas, all right? Look at him. He had an idea. Talk about finding your voice. He was right. He got murdered because they weren't making money. But if they had just waited a few more years, he was right. That all came from this neighborhood on the Lower East Side that was Jewish, which is all now... more, what do you call people now? I don't know the phrases now. Are they called hipsters? What are they called?
Yeah, hipsters.
They're hipsters.
Yeah.
So this was a place where you could come in the 1960s and buy clothing very cheaply. And you had a lot of merchants down here who were Jewish, and you could get things. It was almost like a 99-cent store everywhere down here.
Cool.
Yeah, and the mob was down here. If you watched the movie Once Upon a Time in America, all right, James Woods, Robert De Niro, Elizabeth McGovern. It's this neighborhood. I'm just influenced by a lot of things. I hope I've said some things that, I'm so self-conscious.
No, you've been great. You really have. This has been really interesting for me. I feel like I've taken a lot out of this. I feel like this conversation has come at the right time. Yeah.
For you.
Yeah.
I always say I'm a very psychic person. Now, this week, I had 3 or 4 late night calls from comedians, all of them in pain. I try and be good to as many comedians as I can because when I started out, the first 11 years were so rough. First of all, I've always I don't know. I used to use props. The comedy world hate props. I used to use music. They hate music. You know what I mean? I was silly, smiling a lot. You know, I show all the teeth, you know? And I think this was frowned on so much. And I suffered so much. And nobody thought I would stick with it, or they thought they could get rid of me. And I did stick with it. And I eventually proved that I think I proved that I'm funny, you know, to someone out there, you know? So when I see young comedians in pain, I want to remove any suffering, to let you know that your ups and downs and bouncing off we used to call it, my Aunt Marilyn, bouncing off the walls from the floor to the ceiling. It's normal.
Yeah.
It's normal. You're going to get hit. It's normal. So I got 4 calls this week. One was I have to do a check spot, and I'm very nervous about it. And I said, listen, you're going to have to coast through the check spot. All right. I used to do Dangerfields. I'd close the show. I'd be killing. And then for 10 minutes, nobody's laughing. And then I was like, what the fuck is going on here? And after a while, I figured out, just like I finally found the camera, it's the check spot.
That's what I do at Broadway a lot.
Right. So what you want to do, I said, is I just wanted, my intention, my objective was to relax him and help him feel good and give him something. I said, don't do as many punchlines. Don't do your best material. Do material, but maybe like in basketball, just don't fast break, bring the ball up slower. So in 10 minutes, if you're up there 10 minutes and doing a check spot, instead of doing 30 jokes, do 10. And also, once in a while, just look at the crowd and go, I hope you're having a good time. And also accept less. You have to learn during a check spot to accept less. You're not going to hit the ball further by hitting it harder. In other words, a single or a double is as good as a home run. You may not be able to get a home run during a check spot because the pitcher, I know we're almost done, right? Yeah. The pitcher is not throwing the ball over the plate. So that was one of them. Another one was a friend called me last night, and he was doing an audition. And this guy's a headliner, and he's really funny, and he's really clean. And I go, how did it go last night? And he goes, not well. It was so funny the way he said it. But he wasn't in a panic. And I said, what happened? He goes, I'll tell you what happened. Nobody laughed. And I said, well, how did the other guys do before? He goes, they did okay. And then there was somebody really well known that one. I said, how did he do? He said, he did good. So I said, all right, so there's your answer. It wasn't a hot audience. And then I said, you're so funny. We were talking about you in the car the other day, how funny you are. You just have to know you're funny. So that was another call I got. And then yesterday I got a call. I want to get this out quickly. I don't want to give the names of the people. This person was doing kind of an audition, and they blew the light. And instead of doing 3 minutes, they did 5. And one person told them how funny they were, and the other person really ripped them a new asshole. So... and I believe the person didn't see the light, okay? And I said to them, well, were you contrite? Did you? Yes, I did. I said, okay, so tell them, would they see you again in a month or two? And, that you didn't know where the light was and you didn't do it on purpose, and I can show you that I will never do that again. But my point of all these things are that these are all the trap doors, including not being able to pay the rent. I can't tell you how many. I'm not telling you people to do this. I'm telling you the opposite. Get a day job, do comedy at night, put money in the bank. I said I didn't give advice. Get a day job, put money in the bank, do comedy at night, work on your 5-10 minutes. I went broke, and I had eviction notices. I used to get 3-day notices on my door, and my stomach would just churn. And I used to get a paycheck. I was telemarketing. And let's say I got that paycheck was $300. Now I had a phone bill, I had an electric bill, and I had food. Now that's gone, right? Wait a second, now I can't pay the rent. Now I got to wait for my next paycheck or 2 paychecks to pay the rent. And my stomach I couldn't go to sleep at night. I'd be rolling over and over in bed, like, what am I going to do? How am I going to pay this? So it's rough. It's rough, but I'm trying to look for a silver lining to this, but it just comes with what you're doing. And if you're doing it because you really enjoy being funny, and if you're doing this because it brings you some self-worth, or it even just makes you feel good, there's so much suicide out there. It makes me feel so good to hear people laugh. It makes me feel so good to know somebody's listening.
Yeah. There's nothing like it.
You know?
when you have a good set, there's nothing like it.
And I always hope that there's one person listening today to your podcast that maybe was going to quit or maybe is going to do worse than that listened to us today. I was a teacher. If you can reach one person, that's a big thing. Yeah, a big thing.
Well, mate, it's been a really nice chat. I'm really glad we came on. Do you want to know the beautiful thing about the universe is sometimes you get these gifts, and I had a cancellation literally 5 minutes before you messaged me. And then you messaged me on, I think it was Sunday night. You said, hey, when are we doing this?
Right.
When are we doing this podcast
I'm very
again?
psychic. I swear to
And
God, I'm very psychic.
Well, actually, I just had a spot open up this Wednesday. And you're like, sweet. And it was just perfect. So it was...
Well, it's one of the things I always say. People call me and I say yes.
Yeah.
And you might not agree with me. There are some people that say if you're not getting your price, I have somebody's Dan Vitale had this great story. This guy comes in and he says, hey, Dan goes, I thought you were supposed to be in Jersey this weekend. He goes, oh, they didn't pay my price. Then the guy walked away and Dan turned to me and he goes, this guy's got a price? Because we were just doing it.
Yeah.
Doing it for love. But I'm like Joan Rivers. Joan Rivers said, take everything. Yes.
Yeah.
Just say yes and you'll figure a way to get there.
Yeah.
I don't want to forget to tell people also if they want to know more about me, or they're probably going, how much more do I can't take much more. SteveMarshallComedy.com, and you'll see the movies I direct at SteveMarshallComedy.com. My Instagram is because I always forget to do this. My Instagram is Be Calm, Don't Behave, which is terrible because I have to spell it Be Calm. They all go B-C-A-L-M. No, Be Calm, like real English.
Yeah.
B-E-C-A-L-M. Be Calm, Don't Behave. That's my Instagram.
I'll have that on the show notes.
My TikTok is like Don't Behave Steve Marshall. Just put Don't Behave in, and it means don't behave, be yourself. And believe me, can I be I want to just say, I'm still probably only 85% of myself. I'm trying, everybody. I'm trying to remove the affectations. I'm trying to get to me. It's a long process. And I'm not talking about comedy. I'm talking about even now.
I hear you. Yeah. Well, Steve, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. We'll have to do this again.
Wait a second. Where's the camera?
Just there. That's my wife. That's actually my wife.
Is that your wife? Is that your wife?
Yeah.
Oh my God, forget comedy. She is so fucking hot. Are you serious? You motherfucker. Oh, my life is so dear. Is she Chinese?
Yeah.
Oh, you fucking lucky motherfucker. Oh my God. This guy hit the jackpot. Come in. Can she come in a second?
Yeah, she's coming in. All right, guys, we better pack this up, but thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
I'll see you in the next one.
Thank you. Cheers.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to this episode of Going After It with Cam Bird. Produced by Cam Bird. Podcast edited by Calpit. Music by Brian Rigby. If you've enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe. And if you can, get after it.